Well, hello and welcome to this week's Lanzarote news. And forgive me, the wind is howling here at the moment, and there are a few clouds about, so you might see some really odd lighting changes between edits on this video. So I apologise for that, but at the end of the day, I'm not a TV personality. I'm just a YouTuber, and hopefully you'll be able to live with it this week because the lighting may be a little bit strange. Now don't forget to stay tuned until the end, because at the end of this I'll be doing the 3 things you could be doing next week if you're on the island, and they're 3 things I've picked out from our What's On list that I think are interesting and I'm sure you'll find interesting as well. But loads of news to cover, including the heavy rain warning that we had earlier in the week that may or may not have happened. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So first item is that tourist rental properties on the island, these are the viviendas vacacionales. It's a license that you need to get if you want to rent your property out to holiday makers, have grown by 77% in the last 16 months. Now, it was kind of inevitable because the whole system's going to be changing over the next few months, and many people, myself included, predicted that a lot of people would be applying for these licenses before the changes come into force. On Lanzarote, we now have 9,205 registered rental homes. Now, I mention it partly because people keep saying to me stuff like, well, if Lanzarote stopped building hotels, we wouldn't have an issue with over-tourism. But the bottom line is we actually have fewer hotel beds on the island than we did 10 years ago. So all the growth here has come from these privately owned apartments and villas, which are called VVs or Viviendas Vacacionales. Now, let me tell you about that yellow rain warning. Earlier this week, AEMET, the Weather Channel, issued a weather warning suggesting that we were going to get some very heavy rain on Wednesday afternoon, going through until the early hours of Thursday morning. And Arrecife even issued sandbags into the streets and for people's homes because they were worried that the capital was going to be suffering from floods. In the event, the rain that was due to come to us actually just got stuck over the island of La Palma and dumped 75 millilitres of rainwater onto La Palma and never really reached us. We had a sort of bit of a drizzly, sort of misty day on Wednesday afternoon and into Thursday night, but no proper rain, which was a bit of a disappointment certainly for the farmers on the island, because we are still suffering from a drought which has been going for months and in fact really for the last 2 or 3 years here. So everyone was hoping for a decent deluge. We haven't had it yet. Hopefully we will get that later this coming winter. Now, we've moved into the cruise ship season here, and in fact I was in Arrecife on Thursday this week, and there was a big P&O ship docked in the harbour there. We're expecting about 127 cruise ships into Arrecife between now and the end of the year, so it's going to be a very busy time for them here. In fact, there are 22 days coming up between now and the end of December where there will be 3 ships docked at one time on one day in Arrecife. So it's going to be a busy cruise ship season, very good for the shops and bars and restaurants in Arrecife, and obviously very, very good for the people who organise the excursions that the cruise ship passengers tend to book with their cruise line for the day they're going to spend in Lanzarote. Now, you might remember that we had a protest against over-tourism and various other things on the 20th of April, and the group that organised the protest here in Lanzarote, which is called Lanzarote Has a Limit, or Lanzarote Tiene Límite, have decided to hold another protest this coming Sunday, the 20th of October, and this time, instead of protesting in Arrecife and marching to the Cabildo, which is the government building here, they will be starting in Plaza de las Naciones in Puerto del Carmen, which is near Playa Los Pocios, and they'll be walking all the way down the Avenida to the Old Town Harbour. And the reason they've given for holding another protest just a few months after the last one is that they feel, and I think they're justified in feeling this way, that the politicians didn't really take any notice of that first protest. They talked, as politicians do, about consultation and consulting and looking at options and all that kind of stuff. What they haven't come out with is any kind of manifesto to say these are the issues that we believe that you're protesting about, and this is what we're going to do about it by this date. So it kind of backfired on them. I think they put their heads in the sand and thought, well, the protest is over with, we don't need to worry about it anymore, and it appears that that was a mistake. What I would say to any of you who are on holiday in Puerto del Carmen, don't worry about it. We attended the last protest to see what it was going to be like. It'll be very peaceful. It's not aimed at tourists. It's not aimed at stopping tourism on the island. It's aimed at bringing the issues we have here because of the huge amount of tourists we have visiting a very small island to the eyes and ears of the politicians who can actually do something about it. And some of the issues that arise out of that are the lack of water we have at the moment on the island, the issues we've got with illegal hotels, the problems we've got with queues at all the tourist attractions and so on. So they're not looking to stop tourism, they're looking to reduce it. And while we're talking about tourism, we had some delays at the airport last weekend, and that was caused by the wind being the wrong way. Now, you may be aware of this, but normally at Lanzarote Airport when aircraft land, they land on runway 03, which is from the ocean direction. But occasionally when the wind changes, they have to land on runway 21. It's the same runway, but it requires an approach over land, over the hills, coming into the runway. And over the weekend, the airport had to use runway 21 because of the wind direction. Whenever that happens, it inevitably causes go-arounds for some aircraft and just delays generally in the airport while they're waiting for aircraft that have gone around to get back down. It actually kicked off on Saturday, which was the worst possible day for it because it is the busiest day at Lanzarote Airport at the moment. But it's all settled down later in the week and everything's okay. A lot of people have been asking me about the situation with passport control in the airport, and as far as we're aware, there are currently no issues at all on passport control. And we've certainly spoken to a lot of our clients who've come in over the last 7 days or so, and they've said, no, it was fine. We were through, in most cases, almost before their suitcases had come through off the aircraft. Next up, a really tragic story. A 70-year-old scuba diver, died in Charco del Palo this week. It appears that after surfacing from a dive, he lost consciousness. The emergency services were called. On arrival, he was found to be in cardio arrest. They tried very hard to revive him, but they were unable to do so. It seems that almost every other week in these I talk about record tourism numbers, and it's time for me to do so again. September arrivals at the airport were up, and in fact 707,000 passengers transited through the airport in the month of September, which is an increase of 5.7% on last year. And every single month we seem to be beating 2023, which in itself was a record year for tourism for the island. And this is the point at which I ask you, please, if you haven't already, to subscribe to our channel. If you like this video, please give us a like. We would really appreciate it. And if you've got any questions or comments or feedback you want to give us, but please don't mention this weird lighting on today's video because that doesn't normally happen. But we're always very pleased to hear them, and I will certainly endeavour to answer any questions you have about the island. Above all, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate every viewer that we have. And also, while I'm just taking a pause from the news, a quick shout out to my friend Mark Piano, who many of you will know, who is one of the most talented musicians on the island. I ran into Mark today and said hello, and he told me that he watches these videos religiously every week. So I thought I'd just say hi, Mark, to you and yours. A scary thing happened on the LZ2, the road going from Arrecife up towards Tias, and when an electricity cable came down onto the carriageway, and obviously stopped all the traffic, and the traffic was stopped on it and stuck in it for 2.5 hours earlier this week. The fire department in the end put the cable on a crane and raised it back up while the electricity company rejoined and rebraided the cables. So nobody was hurt, and there weren't even any sort of supplementary accidents where people drive into the back of cars that have stopped on a relatively fast road. So that was good news, but it was probably a complete pain for the poor people who were stuck in that for 2.5 hours. And finally on the news, but don't forget to stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing the 3 things you should be doing if you're here next week in a moment. But finally on the news, 3 million has been set aside by the Cabildo for what they've called their responsible and ethical tourism project. Now, I really don't like that title. It just sounds a bit highfalutin, really, for something that I actually really love, and I like what they're doing. And the aim of this responsible and ethical tourism project is to try and get visitors to Lanzarote to have more respect for the island and the culture. Now, if you're watching this, I'm probably not talking about you here, but I could be talking about people who decide to slide down a volcano for a Snapchat movie and tear up the peak on, or the people who take Instagram photos in parts of the island that they shouldn't be on. And this is what this project is all about. And it's being done by the creation of a 10-point manifesto. Now, this 10-point manifesto, I think, is beautiful. It's been really well written, obviously written from the heart by someone. And I would urge you to go to lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, and if you scroll down the home page, you'll see the recent articles towards the bottom of that, and I've got the Lanzarote logo as the image on that particular article. So click it and you'll be able to read those 10 points. It would take too long for me to read them now, but I think they are beautiful words, and I think the last one I particularly love, with the reference to applause. So go and read it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. This 10-point manifesto will be produced on leaflets, which will be issued by the crews of aircraft flying into Lanzarote. It will be issued by car hire companies to drivers when they pick their cars up. There will be QR codes in various places around the island on kind of totem poles, so you can just hit the QR code and you can read the manifesto in your language. And I like it. I absolutely support it. I don't like, as I said, the phrase responsible and ethical tourism, but there you go. So that brings our news to an end for this week, and now, as promised, I'm going to come up with suggestions for 3 things that I would certainly choose to do next week. And funnily enough, this week, for the first time in ages, I'm not going to be on the island this week, so I can add the phrase if I were in Lanzarote next week. So this Saturday, the 19th, there is a rally sprint event in Yaiza, and I'm a proper petrol head. I love all kinds of motorsport, and I do like these small rallies. So if you're up for that too, head down to Yaiza this Saturday, the 19th, and just listen out for the cars and you'll be able to find where they are. I won't even try and describe it for you. But if you want more information, go to the What's On pages of Lanzarote Information. Now, the next thing I would do is go to Kumdara, and Kumdara is spelt Kumdara, and it's in Teguise, not Costa Teguise, it's in La Villa de Teguise, in the centre of the island, the former capital of the island. And this sounds really interesting. It's a number of things. I'm just going to look at my iPad to read it so I don't miss anything, but it's a market. There's going to be live music and DJs there. There'll be a fashion show and jewellery accessory show. There's lots of arty, designy stuff. There's tasting local food and beers. There's hairdressing and makeup. an exhibition. I don't know what the exhibition of, but it's described as an exhibition. And that takes place on the 24th, on Thursday, and it all kicks off at 11 o'clock and it runs through until, he says, scrolling down, 9 o'clock on Thursday, and it's on again on Friday and Saturday the same time, so from 11 o'clock till 2100 or 9 o'clock. And that sounds like a really interesting thing to go and have a look at, so go and check out Dara. And finally, I think I would go to see the movie in English at the cinema in Dayland on October the 24th, which is Thursday. And that's an evening show. You can check the times on the what's on pages of our website, and the movie showing is The Substance. I don't know much about it, but I do know I always enjoy going to the cinema at Dayland and buying some popcorn and those massive drinks that last the whole movie. So that's the last thing I would do next week. Once again, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it, and we'll be here same time next week, Saturday morning. Have a great weekend, and bye for now, everyone.